Picture this. A soldier crouched in a muddy foxhole somewhere in the South Pacific, rain hammering against his helmet, the jungle alive with unseen threats. In his pack sits a tin can, dented, rust-spotted, stamped with a date from 3 years prior. Inside that can lies something miraculous for its time, meat that hasn't spoiled, hasn't rotted, hasn't turned to poison despite months without ice, without cold storage, without any of the luxuries we take for granted today. This is the story of how science, desperation, and human ingenuity converged to create foods that defied nature itself, sustaining millions through humanity's darkest hour, while teaching us lessons about preservation that remain vital in our modern age of uncertainty. The science behind the miracle canning and beyond. The true genius of World War II survival rations wasn't just in what they contained, but in how they conquered the invisible enemies that have plagued human food storage since, well, the dawn of civilization, when American soldiers tore open cans of corned beef hash, or British troops cracked into their tins of bully beef. They were benefiting from a preservation revolution that began in Napoleon's France, but reached perfection in the crucible of global war. The canning process eliminated every condition that bacteria, molds, and yeasts require to thrive. By heating food to temperatures exceeding 200 degrees Fahrenheit and sealing it in airtight containers, manufacturers created sterile environments where decomposition simply couldn't occur. The metal itself became a fortress wall against oxygen, light, and moisture, the 3 horsemen of food spoilage. But canning was only one weapon in the preservation arsenal. Salt curing represented ancient wisdom applied with industrial precision. When meat was packed in salt concentrations exceeding 15%, the salt molecules drew moisture from bacterial cells through osmosis, essentially mummifying the meat at a microscopic level. Soldiers carried strips of salt-cured beef that had been dried in temperature-controlled facilities until moisture content dropped below 10%, creating an environment so hostile to microbial life that the meat could survive Pacific heat, European winters, and everything in between for years on end. Then there was hardtack, that legendary ship's biscuit that soldiers loved to hate, but honestly depended upon, absolutely. These rock-hard squares of flour, water, and salt, well, they embodied survival through sheer simplicity. Baked multiple times until every trace of moisture was gone, a single hardtack biscuit could survive conditions that would destroy fresh bread in just a few hours. Veterans told stories of soaking hardtack in coffee just to make it edible, of breaking teeth on biscuits baked in 1942 and eaten in 1945, and even of using them as makeshift plates or, believe it or not, building materials. The beauty of hardtack lay in its almost immortal shelf life. Archaeologists have discovered Civil War-era hardtack still intact over a century later. In the chaos of supply lines stretching across oceans and continents, this humble cracker became proof that sometimes the simplest solutions endure the longest. Standing here today, examining the DNA of those wartime rations, we actually discover principles that transcend history and speak directly to our modern hunger for self-reliance. The soldiers who depended on 10-year-old canned meat weren't thinking about bushcraft or survivalism. They were simply trying to stay alive. Yet they left us a blueprint for resilience that every prepper, every homesteader, every person who values independence should study. Those preservation techniques, eliminating moisture, excluding oxygen, adding salt, creating sterile environments, form the foundation of every emergency food supply worth having. Whether you're preparing for natural disasters, economic uncertainty, or just want the security of knowing your family can weather any storm, the lessons sealed in those wartime tins remain as fresh as the day they were packed. If this journey through history's most resilient foods has sparked something in you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the Fieldcraft Chronicles community. Share this video with fellow history enthusiasts and survivalists who understand that the past holds keys to future preparedness. Because honestly, the best way to honor those who survived the unthinkable is to make sure we're ready for whatever comes next.